back to Uncovering Your Inner Power. I'm your host, Jill Ripley, and today I want to explore something that I've been reflecting on recently. And I suspect that many of you have wrestled with this as well. It's what I see as the paradox of the law of attraction and the human condition. If you spent any time in personal development circles, spiritual communities, or reading books about manifestation, you've probably heard some version of this message. Focus on what you want. Maintain a high vibration. Think positive thoughts. Don't dwell on problems. Be careful what you speak into existence. And while I believe there is value in being intentional with our thoughts and our energy, I've also noticed that these teachings can sometimes leave people feeling like they aren't allowed to be human, as though acknowledging pain is somehow the same thing as creating more of it, as though expressing frustration means you've failed spiritually, as though sadness, anger, disappointment, fear, grief, or uncertainty are somehow evidence that you're doing life wrong. And honestly, I don't think that's true. I think sometimes we take these concepts so far that we've forgotten something incredibly important. We are human beings. And being human means that we're going to experience the full spectrum of emotions, not just the pleasant ones, not just gratitude and joy, but also heartbreak, fear, loss, disappointment, uncertainty, frustration. And if we don't give those emotions a healthy place to exist, they don't disappear. They simply go underground. The experience that brought this into focus for me happened recently on one of my monthly walks with my friend Chris. We have a tradition. Once a month, we meet up, walk along the waterfront in Plymouth, have breakfast together, and then we continue our walk back afterwards. It's something I always look forward to because we genuinely enjoy each other's company. We have similar interests, we can talk about deeper subjects, and there's a level of trust between us that makes conversation feel easy. On this particular walk, I found myself talking about several challenges that have been weighing on me. Some health concerns, some difficulties in personal relationships, a few frustrations about my business. Nothing dramatic, nothing catastrophic, just the reality of being alive. And as I was sharing these things, I noticed something interesting. A little voice inside my head started whispering, "You're being negative. You shouldn't be talking about this. You're focusing on problems. You're lowering your vibration." For a brief moment, I actually felt guilty, almost ashamed, as though speaking honestly about my struggles somehow meant I wasn't practicing what I teach. But then another realization emerged. I don't live in that space. I'm not walking around every day focused on what's wrong. I don't spend my life complaining. I don't wake up each morning looking for problems. In fact, most people who know me would probably say I'm one of the more optimistic people they know. So why was I feeling guilty for simply expressing what was true in that moment? And that's when something clicked. There's a significant difference between processing pain and living in pain. There's a difference between acknowledging a struggle and identifying with it. There's a difference between sharing a burden and becoming your burden. One is healthy, the other keeps us stuck. I think many of us have been so afraid of negativity that we've started treating normal human emotions as if they're dangerous. But emotions aren't dangerous. They're information. They tell us something about our experience. They tell us where we hurt, what we need, what matters to us, what feels unresolved. And if we continually ignore these signals, eventually they find another way to get our attention. Imagine discovering a small patch of mold in your home. You could pretend it's not there. You could paint over it. You could close the door and avoid looking at it. But none of those actions solve the problem. The mold continues growing, quietly, silently, spreading into places you can't see, until eventually it becomes a much larger issue. I think unprocessed emotions work very much the same way. When we suppress our sadness, it doesn't disappear. When we deny anger, it doesn't vanish. When we ignore grief, it doesn't magically heal itself. It simply moves beneath the surface where it continues influencing our thoughts, behaviors, relationships, and even our physical health. Eventually, what began as a manageable emotion becomes something much larger because it was never allowed to move through us. And here's what I've noticed. The people who appear calm all the time aren't necessarily the healthiest people. Sometimes they're simply the people who have become experts at suppression. They've convinced themselves that being spiritual means never struggling, that being positive means never feeling hurt, that being evolved means never getting angry. But that's not enlightenment, that's emotional avoidance. Even Jesus wept. Buddha experienced suffering. Every spiritual tradition acknowledges the reality of human pain. None of them suggest pretending it doesn't exist. What they teach is learning how to relate to pain differently, not becoming consumed by it, not allowing it to define us, but also not denying that it's there. I think God gave us emotion for a reason, and I also think God gave us each other for a reason. We are not meant to carry everything alone. One of the greatest gifts in life is having people who can sit with us when life feels heavy. People who listen, people who care, people who remind us that we're not crazy, that we're not weak, that we're not alone. There is something profoundly healing about being seen, not fixed, not rescued, simply seen. Because sometimes what we need most is not advice. Sometimes we simply need another human being to witness our experience, to say, that sounds difficult. I understand why you're feeling that way. I'm here. And that alone can lighten the load. Now, there's an important distinction here. I'm not advocating for chronic complaining. I'm not suggesting we repeatedly tell the same victim story year after year without ever taking responsibility for our lives. That's different. Healthy expression seeks relief, understanding, clarity, and healing. Victimhood seeks validation for remaining stuck. One moves energy, the other recycles it. One creates growth, the other reinforces limitation. The key is awareness. Am I processing this, or am I rehearsing it? Am I seeking perspective, or am I seeking permission to stay exactly where I am? Those are powerful questions, because there is tremendous value in talking about our struggles, but there is also tremendous value in eventually asking, what can I learn, and what now? What action can I take? How do I move forward from here? That's where empowerment begins. The truth is, life will always contain challenges. No amount of manifestation, positive thinking, meditation, prayer, or affirmations will exempt us from being human. People will disappoint us, bodies will age, plans will fall apart, unexpected things will happen, loss will find us, uncertainty will visit us. That's part of the deal. What if speaking our truth isn't lowering our vibration, but actually helping us release what we've been carrying? Because perhaps alignment isn't about pretending everything is wonderful. Perhaps alignment is about being fully present with what is, trusting that our emotions can move through us without defining us, trusting that we can honor our struggles without becoming consumed by them, trusting that we can be grateful and grieving, hopeful and uncertain, strong and vulnerable, all at the same time. Because that's the human condition. And maybe that's exactly as it was intended to be. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. If this episode resonated with you, I encourage you to share it with someone who may need the reminder that they don't have to carry everything alone. And if you'd like to stay connected and hear about upcoming episodes, resources, and events, be sure to sign up for my newsletter. The link is in the show notes. Until next time, remember that your emotions are not your enemy. They are messengers. Listen to them, learn from them, then allow them to move through you as you continue uncovering your inner power.